Well, greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. We're going over reconciling the master trust account. And last week was the first week, and we went over the WordWise Warrior site with my PMA and how the trust is constructed, expressed, and all that. If you go back and watch last week's Zoom, you'll see all that, and I think it's pretty good information, and it gives you a basic foundation of where you can start. And then we also started in on the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union. So that's where we're going to continue on from tonight. Right now, I'm trying to get all the links and everything so we can get them posted in the chat later. And these are the links from the routing numbers, if we can get to them. We've only got about a half hour, so hopefully I can finish this up real quick and get to that other information. So if you just hang out just a minute or two more, I don't really consider it wasting time because everything is worth something. So just be patient and we'll get there. Okay. All right. Well, like I said, last week we went over the PMA and got started on the Constitution. And tonight we're going to go back and finish up on that Constitution. We were sitting at Article 9. And one of the things I want to mention before we get started on that is that we discussed last week on the French francs. And I discovered in the meantime that that is actually an older version of the Constitution. So there's a newer one, and it expresses the fact that they no longer use the French franc, but rather the Swiss franc. I got to dig into it deeper. I think the instead of the weight and grain being identical, I think there's a digit difference in the Swiss franc. I'm not sure yet, but otherwise everything else seems to be the same. Okay, so
hold on. Keith, hello, Tab.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be listening because I just got on the my just over broke. All right.
All right.
All right. Cool.
All right. So if you missed anything from last week, it was the first session. The video, the Zooms are going to be about a half hour long. I don't have a subscription plan yet, so I can't make them any longer right now. But when I decide whether I'm going to do that or not, we can make them longer. But until then, there's going to be half-hour Zooms every Mondays and Thursday until we get through this. So let's get on with the rest of it. That left us off at Article 8, Special Agreements, and it said member countries or their postal administrations. And that's a very important thing because we're talking about the Administrative Procedures Act, and this is an international procedure. Why? Because it's a military procedure. It's the administration of military form, uniform. If the legislation of those countries so permits, may establish restricted unions and make special agreements concerning the International Postal Service. So the restricted unions are the employment unions within the commercial agreements on those commercial paper known as fiat currency within that particular commercial system of that nation. So it's all the interstate and intrastate commerce. The special agreements, whenever you see special, we're talking about private. So those are your actual trade acceptances, trade agreements. You're not going to be doing restricted unions using bankers' acceptance under securities instruments. You're going to be doing trade acceptance as customs agreements. Concerning the International Postal Service, International Postal Service, not the U.S. Postal Service. This is who the U.S. Postal Service has a contract with, and we have the right to make those same special agreements, provided always that they do not introduce provisions less favorable to the public than those provided for by the acts to which the member countries concerned are parties. This is called equal consideration, equal benefit. If you make something that is less favorable, you are causing a detriment. And this is against the law. The law is for profit. And despite the fact that they use debt instruments, that is their effect. They want a profit. They want the same mirror image of the replenishing, and that is in excess. Restricted unions may send observers to Congress, conferences and meetings of the union, to the Executive Council, and to the Consultative Committee for Postal Studies. I want to make it very clear here. I've mentioned a lot lately about the Nuremberg Code. All of these countries base everything on the census, statistics, population data, birth certificates, commercial transactions. And it's all regulated by the Department of Commerce here for the United States. And I imagine it's the same process all around the world. So when we think about postal studies, that means they're researching. So we see this postal agreement as a research agreement. The concept of every trust is for education and knowledge. Matter of fact, if you look at my patent, which we went over last week on the WordWise Warrior and the PMA thing, I got it from the Chippewa Cree. Common plants of Rocky Boys Reservation. Their importance to the Chippewa Cree. And then inside, we see what looks to us to be a bunch of gibberish. It's their actual written language. It's their patent for this material, this specific article right here. And then down below, they've got it written in English. And it's their public notice. And that public notice is for their education purposes. The postal union is the same thing. It's for educational purposes. They tell you right there, postal studies. Okay. So we got to leave it. We got to make sure that it's for the educational purposes and not the legal purposes, commercial purposes, and medical purposes, or religious purposes even. Article 9, or excuse me, Section 3 of Article 8. The union may send observers to Congress, conferences, and meetings of restricted unions. Guess what? If I have equal station recognized on the international forum, on the internet, World Wide Web, as a private member association, a faith-based union, Am I not a union of the same like station? So I may send observers to Congress, conferences, and meetings of restricted unions? How does that work? That's only if I really want to make a contract, isn't it? Shouldn't I just stick to notices? Article 9, relations with the United Nations. The relations between the Union and the United Nations are governed by the agreements whose texts are annexed to this Constitution. Remember, we were talking about the Constitution of the United States, and it's not an indenture. It's just a bunch of statements on words. You have to indenture it. You have to annex it with your affidavit of agreement, binding them to their word.
Check.
And that's what this is telling us right here. I'm telling you, people, it's uniform throughout all jurisdictions. The relations between the Union and the United Nations. Now, if you're in the like station, same station as the Union that they're speaking of here with the capital U, and you specify that you're a faith-based union of the like station, you know, hey, we're in agreement. We like that Constitution. We like the idea that we give a tithe, but we're not charged one if we can't afford one because they're charging us in a different species. The text converting the species. Article 10, relations with international organizations. In order to secure close cooperation in the international postal sphere, the Union may collaborate. Now, wait a minute. What happened to agreements? What happened to contracts? What happened to trade acceptances? Now all of a sudden we've got this term that we don't usually see in most places that we've looked. How many times do you see the term collaborate? So we know it's a special term. COL, labor rate. With international organizations having related interests and activities. Related interests are my studies. We have similar studies. Chapter 2, accession or admission to the Union, withdrawal from the Union. See, these are agreements. We're not going to become a member. We're going to collaborate with international organizations, and we're going to come to an agreement that, yeah, we're going to conduct this off account. There's not going to be an account established. It's just an agreement. No further. And then you can go through and read this stuff. There is one I want to read, extraordinary Congress. An extraordinary Congress may be convened at the request or with the consent of at least 2/3 of the member countries of the Union. So if you're not a member of the unions or the member countries, then you're not subject to their regulation. You can still maintain the same station and say, well, I'm in agreement, but that would be detrimental to me. To see, they can't demand. Once they get to the capacity of demanding something, that's detrimental. Administrative conferences. Conferences entrusted. Administrative. There we go with that administration again. Go to your brothers in private. That's the first step in administrative process is private. And therefore it tells us the valid administrative process is private first. First in time, first in line. The public administration isn't supposed to come until the private administration process fails. Conferences entrusted with the examination of question which it comes to reason of an administrative nature may be convened at the request or with the consent of at least 2/3 of the postal administrations of member countries. So when we talk about that same station, if they have the right to be entrusted, we have that same right. Just like in their commercial realm, if you're a buyer, you're a seller, you have the same rights on both sides to give a number in lieu of the name and address. Same thing. International Bureau. A central office operating at the seat of the union. Does that sound like the seat of the government? Yeah, but guess what the seat of the union is? See, the union is part of the international realm. The government itself is part of the postal system, which is part of the union. Are you guys getting this now? The post office runs the banks and the courts and the transportation and the traffic and the commerce and the tax codes and the healthcare, because they have to administrate the transportation. And because they have to do that through the safety, they also do the insurance and the bonds. This is why they have a purchase manual that provides the bid bonds, performance bonds, payment bonds, fidelity bonds, irrevocable letters of credit, everything you need to do everything privately. Just like they're using all those same forms in their public commercial papers, you can use those commercial papers in the international fiat currency. Expenditure of the union, finances of the union. This is why it's important to realize that you have the equal station. You don't have to become a member of the union. You can hold an equal station. They can't demand that you, in order to be able to have these enumerated rights, that you have to be named within. And if you're not named within, then you have to become a member. Because, see, they get these rights from us, regardless of who delegated them. They always mirror what we have inherently.
Sure.
That's why it's very important to realize to coin your own words. So I'm not going to read any of this financing. We all know that this is their terminology for their debt instruments. Owe no man anything. Their debt instruments say that you have to owe somebody. My instruments say nobody owes anything. If they're sending me a debt, it's got to be fraud. Right from the gate, particularly if they're using a public venue through the courts. We're not going to worry about that. Section 2, Acts of the Union. Chapter 1, General. When we think about general, again, I'm telling you, that's a military term, and it's military administration. It's general military administration, general being first. We are all generally the same likeness or image and likeness, first and foremost. The specifics and particularities come from their classifications and standards and grades and rates and all of that, weights and measures. So in our same capacity, when they come in as a military general, generally we should come in the same kind of armor, but our armor is not of a war, but of peace. And it does the same thing. It protects us. It's the full armor. And we come as chaplain, which means little cloak, professing his word first and foremost. Again, equal station. If they think their military station is so great that they have to kill people in order to assert it, I remind them of the art of war, where it tells us that to defeat one's opponent without fighting is of supreme excellence. So I will always argue their points of war, always. The Constitution is the basic act of the Union. It contains the organic rules of the Union. Where do we hear that before? Constitution of the United States. Okay. The general regulations embody those provisions which ensure the application of the Constitution and the working of the Union. That's all it ensures. If that's all it ensures, then it can't ensure anything outside of that. But again, we have to remember, it's binding on all member countries, but other people, even as one, we have a nation of one that has as much power in their one index finger as the entire register or congressional index or the international index. However they index all them names and numbers, this index finger right here has the same powers as one person, as one man, as all nations on the planet. It's a matter of choice, and that comes down to the individual. The agreements of the Union and their detailed regulations, detailed. They're taking away the legacy, which is your tailing, your chain of title, that which connects you. Embodies, or detailed regulations embody the rules applicable throughout the International Postal Service and the provisions concerning the letter post services. Notice they mentioned two things there: International Postal Service and the provisions throughout the rules applicable throughout the International Postal Service and the provisions therein concerning the letter post services. So they're telling you there's one jurisdiction that's made up of rules, and then within those rules, there are provisions for letter post services. These acts shall be binding on all member countries. Notice both of those are services. They're public services. They are entrusted. That means they are public servants on the international level. And this is every last one of them. They're not just public servants on the federal government level. They're not just public servants on the state level. They're not just public servants on the county level. They're not just public servants on the municipal level. They're not just public servants at the local hospital. They're not just public servants at the local courthouse. They're public servants international. Let me repeat, they are public servants on the international level. Let me remake that, make sure everybody comprehends for the third time. Make no mistake about it. They are public servants on the international level. Period. The detailed regulations which contain the rules of application, as opposed to maintain law, necessary for the implementation rather than the already natural existence of the convention and the agreements, shall be drawn up by the postal administrations of the member countries concerned. So we again have that same station to be able to administrate our own post. We have the drawing rights, shall be drawn up. We have the right to line item through anything they write according to their commissions, committees, congresses, special elections, whatever. We have the same ability to say, just like the House and Senate does, when a bill goes to the House and they pass it, it goes to Senate. If Senate goes through there and reads something they don't like, they line item through it and then override it and then send it back to the House. This is process. This is the administrative procedure. So if they issue a document and we don't wish to accept it because there's no diplomatic service through the postal union, because there's no agreement, then how can the international realm prove that there was a proper notice of service? See, you have to have a contract of some sort with the postmaster general or somewhere in that line of authority. And it has to be expressed at that authority level. The final protocols annexed to the Acts of the Union referred to in paragraph 3, 4, and 5 contain the reservations of to those acts. See, now we've talked about the rules of the acts and the provisions of the acts, and now we've mentioned the reservations of those acts. Application of the acts of the Union to territories for whose international relations a member country is responsible. Uh-oh. What's that term territory mean? Are they stuck in their own terminology in a fictional overlay that says my territory is the land, the air, and the water? Oops. Oops. See, we have to realize, and if you guys want to do any extra research on this, just check out the Calvo doctrine. This is where it explains that one man has just as much authority, plenipotentiary powers, jurisdictional access, egress, ingress as any other man or an entire nation, period. Just have to assert it in the right way, present the truth, what is true. The declaration provided for in paragraph 1, any country may declare at any time that its acceptance of the acts of the Union includes all the capital T territory for whose international relations it is responsible, or certain of them only. So when we're talking about this in relation to the United States, we're talking about Title 18 of the United States, Section 7, special territorial maritime jurisdiction. Number 2, the declaration provided for in paragraph 1 must be addressed to the government of the country where Congress is held, if made at the time of signature of the act or acts in question of the Swiss Confederation in all cases. Remember, I spoke earlier about Title IX and being the Swiss franc, and we realize it's been changed to the Swiss franc now. And this is part of the reason why they instituted the Swiss Confederation. And the Swiss Confederation is better at the contracting. It's like here in America where people form a corporation and they want to develop a trust. They do it generally in Delaware. The people in the international realm that want to develop a good international business corporation, they generally do it through a Swiss trust. Any member country may at any time address to the government of the Swiss Confederation a notification of its intent to denounce the application of these acts of the Union in respect of which it has made the declaration provided for in paragraph 1. In other words, what we're doing is we're giving them notification that the Congress of the United States is already set forth in the Constitution of the United States under Article 1, Section 10, Congress shall lay and collect taxes. Oops! The declaration and notification provided in paragraphs 1 and 3 shall be communicated to member countries by the government of the country which has received them. Oh, and that one, finish up number 3. I guess I didn't finish it up. Such notification shall take effect 1 year after the date of its receipt by the government of the Swiss Confederation. The declarations and the notification provided for in paragraph 1 and 3 shall be communicated. Communicated. Noticed. I'll say noticed. 5, paragraphs 1 to 4 shall not apply to territories having the status of a member of the Union and for whose international relations a member country is responsible. So this is taking out the states. A member of the Union and for whose international relations a member country is responsible. So the states have an international relation with the UPU, but its responsibility lies with the federal government. Article 24, national legislation. The provisions of the acts of the Union do not derogate from the legislation of any member country in respect of anything which is not expressly provided for by those acts. This is just a different way of saying the 10th Amendment, along with the equality of law among the states. In other words, it's saying the things that aren't delegated in this are therefore delegated to the other member countries. And by gosh, if they're not stated anywhere, they're not enumerated, they still may exist. You just have to notice them of it. Chapter 2, acceptance and denunciation of the acts of the Union. Signature, ratification, and other forms of approval of the acts of the Union. Now, what I want to make clear is that when these senators, congressmen sign these bills and stuff on the international forum, they're the ones signing the contract. Okay. So if we don't have a signature on there, we don't have a contract. And their signature is merely in a representative capacity. So there can never be a first-hand witness. Even on the international realm, these laws and stuff cannot bring equity. It's impossible. In order for one to receive equity, they must first come with equity. In order to come with equity, you must first have clean hands. When we go to our brother through a third party, without having that first-hand witness, it's a false representation. I think it's telling me I got about 10 minutes left. So I'm going to finish up with what we've got here real quick on this denunciation, and then open the board, and we'll do the bank routing numbers Thursday. It says the signature of the acts of the Union by plenipotentiaries shall take place at the end of Congress. Congress with gress. Remember I spoke about ingress and egress. comprehend what they're telling you, people. Egress, you have the right of ingress and egress, and he provides that from this time forth and forevermore. That's the end of your Congress with them. Make sure that's very clear. The Constitution shall be ratified as soon as possible by the signatory countries. I'm sorry. It's already been written. It's as it is. What is done is what ought be done. There is nothing new under the sun. As it is written, so shall it be done. You have it written in your own laws. There's a freedom of transit. And I assure you, you got that from Psalms 121, verse 8. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Are you trying to sanction the word of the Lord? Approval of the acts of the Union other than the Constitution is governed by the constitutional regulations of each signatory country. Not each signatory. Again, we see a third person representation. This is an abstract noun. It cannot possibly exist, and therefore the signature cannot possibly be representing truth. Period. When a country does not ratify the Constitution or does not approve the other acts which it has signed, the Constitution and other acts shall be no less valid for the other countries that have ratified or approved them. So if they're valid for one country and somebody hasn't ratified, it is still valid for them. This is the equal station standing I'm talking about. Just because I haven't signed it doesn't mean I can't state those same rights that you have enumerated there, because my rights supersede any of them enumerated rights. They are all of them. Plus, like our brother Derek says, I get to go jack off anytime I want. That's one of my rights that aren't enumerated there. Do you agree? And they can't rebut it. There are so many rights that we can tell them that we have if we think about it and just know how to present it in its true fashion. That they will shut their mouth, literally. They will either shut their mouth and you will leave them speechless, or they will turn around and run. So anyway, with that, I yield. And I'm going to open the board for questions. We got about 5 minutes left, guys.
That's one of my rights too, by the way.
Yes. Nice to see you, brother.
How's it going, brother?
Good
to see you. I missed it. I'm gonna have to watch it over. I was busy doing something. I checked in the Zoom and realized that you were on, so I killed that and came over here.
Well, I appreciate it.
Love you.
I'm going to make sure I've got all these links. I think I've got them all. There's a couple more I might add to the links in the Facebook post when I post the video. But for now, here are the, oops. That's one of them, I guess. Let me get them all. These are the ones we'll be talking about next week. These are all the links I've got up on my thing right now. And it's going to be talking about the routing numbers and how they're set up and what they mean for different institutions and what they're called for different organizations, countries, nations, stuff like that. And every last one of them is related to banking, period.
Cool.
Every last one of them. And so when we're able to take and establish our own private routing number, our own private security number, by establishing a first record of expressing the trust with that epoch number like I did, we can establish that as the new private routing number. Everything's got to go through here first. And that routing number opens up to the portal of the clearing office and the purchasing office through the postmaster and the construction of that irrevocable letter of credit based on the Constitution of the UPU.
I heard you on that last, or on the first video, on the last first video, say you were going to put the links. Did you put them in that chat or did you put them on Facebook?
On Facebook, I went and posted that Zoom, and they should be on that Zoom link.
Okay, I'll go back and check
That
on it. Thank you.
Facebook. Yeah, I did the Zoom, and so I left the Zoom link up, and so people were able to click on it and join the Zoom. But then when the Zoom was over, you can still click on the link and go into the room, evidently. I don't know why it left it open, but would let me open it again for another Zoom this week. But
Huh.
so the information, once I got the video saved and uploaded it back to Facebook, I made a post, and then in the chat section or in the post itself, you'll see those links. I can't remember how I did it.
Okay, thank you.
It was just a couple days ago. And I'll do the same thing here. When it's finished downloading, I'll post it on Facebook with these links as well. Because these links won't show up in the chat section it'll only show the video on the Facebook.
Alrighty.
Well, anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed it. Got any questions, feel free. We got a few more minutes left, and I'm just going to let the clock run out. So speak up. And if you get it cut off, oh, well, we'll finish it next week.
Did you say you was going to do one Thursday?
Yep. I'm going to do one every Monday and Thursday, 8 o'clock Central Standard Time, because I've got so much information to put out. And though I comprehend it pretty well, and I'm going to start doing the steps, I don't want other people going out there and doing the steps until I've done them. And in the meantime, I'm going to continue doing little classes, half-hour sessions or so every week, or every Tuesday, Monday and Thursday.
Oh, remember, I got that friend at the post office, so she's just sitting there waiting for me to, I told her I'd get back with her when I perfected my questions so I wouldn't waste her time. So let me know what you need.
Will do.
Yeah. We can do
Just
some
got
digging.
done. If you look on my Facebook, I just got done rebutting or actually accepting for value a letter, supposedly some kind of bill from a local medical society looking for $500 and some from my companion before they'll allow her to continue on, even though she's got federal medical insurance. That's funny. So I wrote a nice little return letter as her chaplain. I posted on Facebook.
What did they reply?
No, I just sent it out today.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's quite short and simple. You know, they sent me a 9-page bill. I sent them a little short 2-page response that could have been shortened down a little bit and made into one.
It's starting to get fun. I can see how it could be fun now.
Oh yeah, I do. I have fun with it. I do. And you look at that response that I sent on Facebook, and you'll see how fun it really is. Because you, Bobby, I'm sure will recognize how it's written and realize the way it's written and the terms that I used are very explicit. And if they try to rebut it, it's gonna put their ass in a fire pit. Because see, they got an ass, or they got a flame that's burning their ass, and if they want to step in it deep, they're gonna be singeing their eyebrows too. They want to turn up the heat. Feel free. I'm trying to turn it down.
Right. They're giving them a chance.